Hey, good to see you here. I got my hands on my first mid-century furniture piece in the form of a medium-sized cabinet. It already looks good, but I must say that I have some quite different plans for it. I hope you'll enjoy this video as much as I did making it, and let's dive into it. I started by removing the hardware, so all the locking mechanisms and the door stops. It had a little bit of damage on the top, which I fixed with some wood filler. I then took out the drawer and removed the doors for sanding. But first, I needed to remove the hinges, of course. The cabinet had some sort of clear finish on it, which is why the first sanding dust appears to be white. It took a little while to get through this first layer, but slowly you can see the dust turning brown. For the rest of the cabinet I took out my sander. Nothing was really happening at first, so I changed the sanding paper and that made all the difference. Motherfucker. Then it was on to the sides. And I finished with sanding the second door. Don't ask me why I did it in this order. I wore a mask during this process because I didn't want to breathe in any of the white dust. I didn't really trust it. Better safe than sorry, right? I didn't really like these handles, so I removed them. And that was quite satisfying to do actually. Beautiful, mate.
Come on, buddy.
Bam. Oh, okay. I discovered that the corners of the drawer were a bit damaged, so I threw some wood filler on there to fix it. Then it was back to sanding. I started with 80 grit sandpaper and worked my way up to 220. I might have overdone this part, but oh well. Again I discovered some damaged corner, and you know what we do with those by now. Good as new. Sanding the legs took way longer than I'd like you to know. Fortunately, you will never know. The next thing I did was take out a big board of cheap wood and doing some measurements. I had to saw 2 long strips of wood by hand, as I don't have a lot of tools in my arsenal. What for, you might ask? That you will see in a minute or so. Let's see how well I did. 12.2, 12. Not too bad. So I had to improvise because the board didn't fit on the cabinet anymore. So look at this. Well, what can I say? I got some clamps fitted to the side, and of course I need some room because I'm gonna saw. Well, you can see the line right here. And of course I don't want to saw into the stand or whatever, but I need some contra weight, so I got these these paint buckets. I'm pretty proud of myself. Let's see how well this one did. 12.1. Like 0.5 millimeters less. 12.1. Holy shit. I'm accurate as fuck. For the next step of the process, I bought myself a second-hand miter saw. I used it to cut the wooden planks into a bunch of squares and rectangles of various sizes. Which I then used to create a 3D pattern on top of the doors and the drawer, to give it a bit more detail and depth. I had to sand down all these squares, unfortunately by hand. After that they needed to be glued to the doors and drawer, but I only had a couple of clamps, so this whole process took a while. This is taking way longer than I expected. First I had to make this giant puzzle, which I've been working on this yesterday for the entire day. And I thought I could finish all the pieces and start gluing and start working on another cabinet that I'm working on right now. But in the end I was just working on this cabinet for the whole day. Because not only do I need to cut out these pieces, I also need to sand them by hand. A belt sander would have been really nice. Which is something I got about a week after filming this. And I have to glue them on one by one. I have a few clamps, but not an awful lot. I'm not even finished cutting out all the pieces. I have finished the pieces for the doors, but not for the drawer. And I'm still not sure what kind of handles to use. The problem is, I'm a perfectionist and I want everything to look perfect. And besides that, I want to be original. So I just don't want to buy a piece of furniture, throw some paint on there and sell it. I want to really give it my own input and add something to it, like physically. For example, with these pieces. At least it's gonna look cool, alright? And so I just continued without thinking about it too much, which I think was the best way to go about things. I finished all the pieces, finished gluing and got back to sanding. I tried to get the edges and top as even as possible. Hey, be careful, dude. There were a few places that had some scratch marks, so I tried to remove those as best as possible. I finally decided on what kind of handles to make for the cabinet. I got some spare planks made from bamboo from my uncle that he used for his house. It's quite heavy and elegant material, and it seemed a good fit for this purpose. I pre-drilled some holes so I could screw the hardware to the drawer. I have an idea. And I hope that this works. I guess? But then this happened to the first handle, unfortunately, even after pre-drilling. So then I had to make another one. Also, look at this wobbly footage. Moment of truth. Let's see if this new handle doesn't break like the first one. So far, so good. Second screw. It didn't break, but it's sticking out like a millimeter, not even. But as long as it's fixed, which it seems like it should be good. To initiate the painting process, I had to stir the paint. And what other way to do this than to shake the bucket like a madman without blinking? Look at him go. Okay, that should be enough. Come on, man, I said enough. Stop it! I used an eco-friendly turpentine-based black stain to paint the cabinet with. I lightly sanded it down once it was dry and applied a second coating. I love how the grain of the wood is still visible. Another coating to the legs and it was done. Being a metalhead myself, I have a couple of different band shirts to support my favorite metal bands, but my all-time favorite has to be Miley Cyrus.
Subscribe to this channel, guys.
Listen to Miley. Anyway, I continued painting the doors and started with the spaces between the rectangles. Fuck. The tip of my hair was black for about a week. Oh well, shit happens. I continued with the roller to avoid having visible brush strokes once dry. I won't be using rollers in the future as I want to keep my work process as sustainable as possible. For the drawer I worked the other way around, first doing the top and then the crevices. The cabinet had one panel on the inside which I decided to stain white for contrast, just like the insides of the doors, but I forgot to shoot footage of that. I replaced the rusty gold hinges with shiny new black ones. I pre-drilled some holes for the screws, but found out that the wood was soft enough to not need any pre-drilling. But then I found out that the screws were too thick, so the doors wouldn't be able to fully close. I found the right screws, but now they were in the wrong color. So I attached them all to a wooden frame so I could spray paint them black. The spray can needed to be shaken before use, so you know. Sick! You think that's enough? Great! A few coats of paint and it was done. Lastly, I applied a coating of wax oil to give it some durability and a matte finish. After the first coating had dried, it revealed quite a lot of specks that covered the whole cabinet. I lightly sanded it down and decided to apply the second coating with a different roller. Now there was only one thing left that needed to be done: adding the door stoppers. The holes weren't big enough, so I had to use a bigger drill bit. Wacht. Oh fuck. It's upside down. Now it was finally finished. Okay. Take a look at this beauty. I have to be honest, I never thought that it was gonna look this good. I love the effect that the rectangles give off, and I think the new wooden hardware adds to the overall design of the cabinet. There are always things I'd like to have done differently, but overall I'm very happy. Let me know what you think of this design down below in the comments, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Cheers!